Wait a few weeks after you've seen that, and then when you begin to see little roots coming out the bottom, or you just turn it upside down and check it, then you can start thinking about potting them on. I'm going to put some grit on the top of them. And isn't that lovely? I've got 6 brand new oriental poppies. But it's not just taking root cuttings. This is Clematis rectipurpurea. It's grown for these gorgeous deep purple leaves. And it also has fluffy heads of flowers. And behind them, they leave these glorious seeds. And there are still a few hanging on here. And all I'm going to do is just take them off like that. And I'm going to sow them directly into a seed tray of ordinary compost. So they're such big seeds, I can just push them in individually. And with their little tails poking into the air, I'm going to water this tray really well and then cover it with grit and then leave it outside, because the whole point is that these seeds are dormant now, and to break that dormancy they need a period of chilling, so the winter's cold should do that, and in the spring they should germinate. It's been utterly fascinating finding out about the connections between plants and the families they belong to. And it's been such great fun to propagate a lot of them. But looking at these Alchemilla mollis, self-sown in the gravel here, a member of the Rosaceae family, of course, I'll tell you what, you can't improve on nature, can you?
And Carol will be back on our screens on the 26th of November with an hour-long special on the science of gardening, explaining how and why plants grow. If you understand the science, you can become a better gardener. Now, last year, I was caught out by the cold weather, but not this winter, so I'm lagging my pipes. As well as insulating out the cold from the plumbing, there are plenty of other jobs to be getting on with over the coming months. Winter brings strong winds, so check your tree ties and stakes are ready. Trees planted less than a year ago need a firm stake to guard against wind rot damage, but make sure ties aren't so tight they strangle the tree.
Keep your bird table well stocked over the winter. It's a matter of life or death for small birds. As well as seeds, porridge, oats and fruit all make good bird food. And don't forget to leave water out too.
Tree ferns need protecting from freezing temperatures and winter weather. I like to put a layer of straw and a protective fleece blanket over their crowns. Now's a good time to take hardwood cuttings of shrubs and trees in your garden. They're so simple, and the list of plants you can take them from is huge. I've got some buddleia, and this is flowering currant. Essentially, the technique is the same, whatever plant you take them from. Look for pencil-thick stems of this year's growth, and then just snip them off. Just below a bud at the bottom, and then to make sure they go in the ground the right way up, with a slanted cut just above a bud at the top. I want to be about 20 centimetres long. Another good candidate, of course, is the cornus. So easy. Just push the stems in the soil and they grow away. 14 years ago, an extraordinary plant came into flower at Kew for the first time in 60 years, the Titum arum. Now, the gardening team at Kew have managed to get it to bloom since, but whenever it does, it is extraordinary. It's a marvel of the horticultural world. So, when we heard that it was coming into flower again, we were on tenterhooks and on standby for 8 days. And then finally, we heard that it was starting to open. So here it is, the largest, rarest and smelliest flowering of the year. Its Latin name is Amorphophallus titanum, and when it flowers, it certainly kicks up a stink.
Some people call it the corpse flower because of its tremendously awful smell. It's pretty rare to see it in flower. Before the 90s, it was very rare to see it in flower. In fact, in Kew, I think we only got it to flower twice. But nowadays, we tend to get them into flower once every 4 to 7 years.
The Titanarum grows in the wild in Sumatra, and technically is not a single flower but a compound flower or inflorescence made up of lots of tiny male and female flowers. The red flowers are female and the male parts are the tiny white bumps at the base of the column. In the wild, the plant is pollinated by sweat bees. But in the absence of sweat bees at Kew, it's down to the gardeners to take on that role. And the secret of successful pollination is getting the timing right.
I'm just going to see if I can pick off a female flower and see if it's ready for pollination. That's the ovary at the base. This is what develops into a berry. And what we're looking for is if this is sticky to touch. And it is. It's ready.
The female flowers are ready a day or so before the male parts. So to pollinate, the gardeners have to use pollen previously collected from a different plant.
This is the pollen mixed up with water here. Just get this brush in, coating each one of those little flowers. They'll only be receptive for about 6 or 7 hours. The flower will last for probably around 4 days in this temperature, and then this spadix will collapse, and it will take about 2 to 3 months to produce a head of berries.
The Titanarum is part of the Araceae family, related to plants like arum lilies and Aracema. In all Araceae, the male and female parts are receptive at different times, which prevents self-pollination. This keeps the gene pool diverse. And to help keep the Titanarum gene pool diverse, the team at Kew will also collect the male pollen to store for other botanic gardens around the world to use.
Titanarum is currently listed as vulnerable in the wild. So the more kind of genetic diversity that we have by cross-pollinating between different collections from around the world, the better for the species in general.
The work Kew does helps ensure a future for the Titanarum. While the smell would not be missed, the flower certainly would. That Titanarum was so pungent the camera crew said they could smell it even the day after filming. A miraculous plant though. But a miracle for your back garden are hardwood cuttings. To think they'll grow into plants just from a little stick like that. And the process is so simple. Take out a trench with a spade, just wiggling it from side to side, and then sprinkle a handful or two of horticultural grit in the bottom just to improve drainage. And then your cuttings go into the trench just with the top few centimetres sticking above the soil surface, about a hand's width apart. Keep your different varieties separate, because they'll root and grow away at different rates. And that is all there is to it, apart from just firming them in with your feet. Lovely. And they grow away quite quickly. Here's some buddleia that I struck back in February of this year. Look at that. Bonny little plants that cost me nothing. I reckon you pay about £5 for that at the garden centre. Well, that's it for the series and this year. But Gardener's World will be back in the spring. But until then, enjoy the winter and enjoy your garden.
Evolution gains pace next tonight on BBC Two as creatures develop mouths and mobility. The journey continues in David Attenborough's First Life.